Everyone wants to take their business, their skills, to the next level. Small and mid-sized business owners have exceptional insight into how to do this. They endure and thrive because they find ways to overcome the challenges that come their way, and they can teach us valuable lessons to apply to our own companies and lives. Stephen Nooner, founder and owner of Alkali, a company with a unique process that helps businesses more effectively buy and manage their insurance programs. And Bob Gibbons, builder of Riata Commercial Realty, a real estate advisor and tenant advocate, are two prominent Metroplex businessmen who, along with their weekly guests, will ask their and your probing questions, finding impactful solutions that will help you reach for the next level. Here are your hosts, Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons.
Welcome to The Next Level, conversations that propel business. I'm your host, Bob Gibbons.
And I'm your host, Stephen Nooner.
Back from the grave. Nooner's well and with us again. I'm glad for that.
Glad to be back.
Well, our show exists to support the entrepreneurial community, and we like to have fun and meaningful conversations where real learning can occur, and you can learn from our entrepreneurs, and maybe Stephen and I might learn something every now and then as well.
Some of us have more ground to cover than others.
Yeah, I'm there with you. Well, so today we have a great guest. Stephen, who do we have with us?
We do. We have, well, let me just get into it. It's with great honor that I get to introduce our next leveler for today. We need to pick a name that I can say.
Yeah, good luck.
I met Mike Covert, president and co-founder of Ignite Partnership, in 2008 when he was starting his company. And I knew he would be a huge success because he was really smart and super cool.
Oh, yeah. He is wearing a black jacket.
Key
leather.
ingredients to success. No, but I seriously just had a sense. You get those senses. But here we are, fast forward today, and Mike leads a thriving company focused on helping technology companies align stakeholders, develop effective marketing plans, and help launch products that people care about. Ignite Partnership employs over 30 employees here in the Dallas area and is based in Richardson, Texas. If you'd like to learn more about Mike or Ignite Partnership, please visit ignitepartnership.com. Welcome, Mike.
Welcome.
It's great to be here. Thanks for having me. It's fun to see you guys again.
It's
great. It is. It's been a while. So we like to start off with wisdom from others. So we come up every week with a quote from somebody smarter than we are. And this week our quote is from Stuart H. Britt, who is a historian, critic, filmmaker, musician. You know, whenever they have like 4 or 5 things behind their name like that, I'm just lost. I don't feel like I can compete. But
Renaissance man.
Renaissance man, exactly.
Or ADD.
Short attention span. So he said, doing business without advertising is like winking at a girl in the dark. You know what you're doing, but nobody else does. How do you like that?
I think it's interesting because a lot of people think advertising is about pushing a message out there. And more or less, you're not going to wink at a girl in the dark unless you want to start a conversation or have other ideas in mind. And advertising more today is about creating that conversation. And it's not just about getting attention. There's lots of messages out there. But why should your message be received by the girl who happens to hopefully see you in the light? And the why is what advertising is really all about. So I agree. If you're not willing to promote your product, service, and what you think you do best that you're proud of as an entrepreneur, then what's the point?
Right.
Stay in the dark.
Well, now, speaking of Renaissance man, I did a little research on you, and I found a couple of tidbits that I thought were really interesting. Like you were a champion video game guy in grade school. What was your game?
That was pre-internet, so I'm not exactly sure.
Are we talking like Frogger, Donkey Kong?
It was actually
Asteroids?
It was a made-for tour event by Nintendo. It was the original Nintendo, and it was a 3-part game. It was Super Mario Brothers.
Uh-huh.
That was the first level. Then once you passed the milestone there, then you went on to Rad Racer, which is a racing game.
I loved Rad Racer.
And then you finished with Tetris.
And
then the combined points, it was all at like the Dallas Convention Center, someplace like that. And I hit it big on Tetris, and that propelled me to I was champion of the bracket.
So how old were you?
I was probably 13, which is embarrassing.
Getting lots of dates.
Oh, I was winking at the girl in the dark because I was too busy playing video games.
Well, that's all right. All in good time, right? Well, speaking of girls and all in good time, I understand that you work with your wife now,
Yep.
but that while the two of you went to UT together for 2 years, you didn't know each other, and you met her at a dive bar in the Upper East Side of New York. Is
One of
that
my
right?
favorite, when I meet, so being here in Texas, I meet a lot of people that know people that went to the University of Texas. And one of the more common things I get is, did you know? And it's a school of like 50,000 people. It's the second or first largest school in the country every year, jockeying with Ohio State. So we did meet in a microcosm of UT alum, because back then there weren't 1,000 channels on TV, and you couldn't find the football games just anywhere. So you had to go to the official UT watching bar.
Oh, cool.
That drew UT Longhorn fans from Manhattan. And I happened to meet my wife, who is friend of a friend there. She's wearing a burnt orange hoodie. And that stands out
Easy to
in the
find.
cool New York City, area. And so I was like, that's a girl I want to wink at and get to know.
Cool.
That's
Like
awesome. That's awesome. Well, switching gears, because it's been a while since we've seen each other and connected. When we met, I know that you guys were doing marketing on a little bit more broad scale. And what I've noticed as I was preparing for today is that you've gone a lot more niche, whichever one that is. Bob can tell you. So tell us about that and that journey and what you're doing different, how you guys have evolved.
It definitely has evolved. The artist inside of me, and a lot of artists in our industry, don't want to limit the colors on the palette to paint with. And so we have this idea that the more open we can keep our expertise, the more inspired we'll be, the better ideas. And I do believe that in my heart of hearts. However, to grow our business, expertise and depth of expertise is what really drives, I believe, a cold conversion versus how we've grown our business largely in the last 8 years, which is primarily referral. You have an implied trust there that
Sure.
you're going to do a good job, and even though you don't have restaurant experience, you can do it.
You've got the chops to make that happen, pull it off.
So we needed, in order to grow our business, because referral has slowed down a little bit for us, not that our product's bad, but our network has been confined. So we're really focusing on a true area of expertise, and that's in the technology industry. It really has been from day one. And now that's how we're choosing to wink at people in the light.
You're going to go with this winking thing.
You brought it up.
All right, so in the technology space, give us a little more depth on that. Who are, maybe if you were able to mention some names, but sort of what is the specific services you're providing for them?
It still is full service. We don't define ourselves by medium, and I think that's really important, the way that consumers get information now. It's varied. It's the same reason you're videotaping your show and you're also broadcasting it, right? Different people like to take in information in different ways.
Sure.
So we create integrated campaigns for companies like Samsung, NEC, Fiserv, Qualcomm. And we seek those kind of leading technology companies that are so used to having the next big thing that they forget humans still need to make decisions based on emotion sometimes. And that's what we bring to the table. They've invented the best stuff, and we help them invent the best ways to talk about it so that people actually pay attention.
So you're human. You're making it more of taking the whiz bangs and turning it into an emotional experience where I know that I want to buy that because it connects.
These companies are largely built with a foundation, different than maybe some other industries like CPG, where you can invent your way to attention. You always have the next great thing coming, and it's largely an engineering kind of mindset. And I think the way humans still make decisions is humans make them very irrationally, and then they rationalize afterwards.
I'm guilty.
And so our job is to help find what we say is kind of the soul in these technology products, so that they do relate to the humans that still make decisions very irrationally with their emotions in mind. And sometimes that's hard to prioritize, especially in the noisy environments of today.
And you said noise. That to me is, that's got to be a massive challenge. If you're always coming up with the next new thing, we do a lot of work for tech companies, and it's innovate. And it's like the noise is just like, the word innovation is almost noise now. Like,
it is.
It's just crazy. So how do you get any kind of traction in that type of environment?
First is knowing specifically who those influencers are going to be, and actually thinking about them instead of like a target. Like Bob. What motivates Bob? He's a human. He lives a life, and I want more people like Bob or influence like Bob. No offense, Steve.
None taken.
So the first thing
He's
is
a more
to
rational
get
buyer
yourself in the frame of mind. We're largely a contextual society now, and that means the way Bob can shop for his products, he can choose a variety of channels to get his information. And so we have to assume that where he is, he's at the center of the marketing plan now, not the brand itself. Consistency is still really important, but it's important to anticipate where Bob has been, where he might be going, and what message he needs right now based on his journey. And with technology and data, we can do more of that. We can isolate more of those moments.
So is there a significant difference in what you do for a tech company than it would be for some other kind of company?
The tools are the same, but the way people shop for technology is much different. A lot of CPG is impulse buy. Whereas this, if you're going to go shop for a car or even like your next mobile phone, you're going to do a little research. It's not as easy as picking up a Snickers bar and grabbing their attention in a store environment. We need to feed information, we need to educate them, and then we need to influence them at the moments where they're ready. It's a longer and windier road, if that makes sense.
And it sounds like there's a lot of, consulting and strategy and everything that goes into what you do. So I know that people have to be huge, like a lot in our business. So what do you guys do to make sure that you're attracting and retaining the best people?
Talent is our largest investment. And it's also really our point of difference at the end of the day and what we're able to do and the way we're able to get it done. We're a service business at the end of the day. What we try and do is show people in our environment versus some of the larger environments, advertising environments they might come from, you can actually make a difference here. We want you to like the people that you work with, highly collaborative, and true to kind of the reason I love hanging out with other entrepreneurs. It's overused that, we are an entrepreneurial environment. But in this case, if you have the motivation and the idea, we have a flat enough structure, but still with the resources where you can truly make a difference, scope your career. So I think people like learning with us, and they like the culture that we allow learning in.
They're helping to build something.
Yep.
Is there any significant difference between the work you were doing out of New York than it is out of Dallas?
You mean because of the type of work, the type of advertising?
Well, just the way the advertising business works in the different cities, not so much from the client side, but just from the agency side.
Less about the regional difference, more about the time difference.
Oh.
This was a far different game 10, 15 years ago. Far different. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way about their industries. But in this case, the technology, the way people shop, the role of advertising and marketing has really changed quite a bit, even though the fundamentals are largely the same. So we have a lot more tools to consider. We have a lot more strategic opportunities to identify Bobs instead of a mass of people that happen to have the same demographics as Bob. And that's changed the game exponentially. So I think it's less about a regional difference and more about a time and expectation difference based on the customer base.
Makes sense. Okay. Well, we're going to go to a break, but you're running a successful, growing company, but you work all the time. You've neglected your friends and you're depressed. Classic entrepreneurship. How can you run a company and have a life? We'll talk about that when we come back.
Stick around.
And now, Confessions of a Recovering Landlord.
This is Bob Gibbons with Riata Commercial Realty, and I am your recovering landlord. After 20 years as a landlord, I now use that experience only for the benefit of companies that lease or buy office buildings and warehouses. Today's confession: knowledge is power. We all negotiate from a position of power and strength, or at least we want to. In any negotiation, the party with the most knowledge probably has the upper hand, and landlords count on this being the case whenever you're negotiating a lease, because most landlords are professional real estate investors and they hire professional leasing agents and property managers. Landlords are in the market every day negotiating leases, while tenants probably only negotiate 1, maybe 2 leases every few years. So tenants feel outgunned. Don't let landlords have all the power. As a former landlord for 20 years, I understand how landlords think and what motivates them. So let me put that knowledge and experience to work on your side of the negotiation. To learn more, contact me at TexasTenantRep.com. Again, that's TexasTenantRep.com.
Have you started making plans to take your business to the next level in 2016? Hi, I'm Stephen Nooner, founder and CEO of Alkali. We have a trademark process called the Empowered Advantage that enables CEOs, business owners, and entrepreneurs to more effectively buy and manage their insurance. Before sitting down to make your plans for the new year, here are just a few things to consider. Would you say that you have an actual insurance strategy, one that you can articulate, or have you just purchased a policy here and there over the years? If you have an insurance strategy, was it discussed under the pressure of a renewal deadline or considered earlier in the year to avoid fire drill decision making? If your answer was no to either of these questions, then you may not have the right partner on your team. Visit alkaliservices.com to contact us and take the next step to a bigger and better future.
My name is Marta Fry, Director of the Collins Small Business Development Center. I really recommend you fail often and fail fast, just like Bob and Steven, and take your business to the next level.
Welcome back, everyone, to the next level. We are here with our special guest, Mike Covert, President and co-founder of Ignite Partnership. To learn more about Mike or Ignite Partnership, please visit ignitepartnership.com. All right, welcome back, Mike. So one of the things we didn't get to the first part of the segment, I wanted to pull into this half is, with all the disruption, everything going on, I mean, what are some of the threats that you guys are facing as a business right now?
I think the industry in general is facing some threats, and as we mentioned a little bit earlier, the way people are shopping now and therefore interacting with marketing. We're communicating an idea that they may want to better their life, right, through representing our products. It's coming from so many different channels now. There isn't a dominant medium. Television has basically shaped the modern philosophy of how marketing and advertising works. A dominant medium, push the message, raise awareness, drive an action, and get them into other environments. Push them down the sales funnel, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with. And now that's not happening that way. It's a longer and windier path. People are entering it at very different points because they're informed in many different ways. You have the internet, you have the social influence. It's just not what kind of detergent that my mom used growing up. Mm-hmm. People are making their own decisions. They have access to information to empower those decisions. Not to mention, Tide's showing up at your doorstep now, and you didn't need to go to the store
with a drone.
Right.
So by a drone.
So just the whole nature of commerce, the way people make decisions, and how our products and services can be at the right place, right time, has changed enormously. And data is going to be the thing that helps us identify those. I don't think our industry has done a very good job yet of taking advantage of the technology. You hear the term big data, right? It's very common. Be careful what you ask for, is what I see with my clients and our industry. There is so much data, we're drowning in it. So the real opportunity is, how do you get past that noise, right, and actually assemble it into something that informs something meaningful for marketing? And that's really hard to do due to a lot of silos of information. There's not a lot of departments still talking to each other, and it's hard to get access to anything but the muckety-muck. Not across the board, but the companies that are doing it really well have started to move to this omni-channel approach versus kind of a push multi-channel approach.
So omni-channel, so tell me what that means.
Omni-channel is the newest buzzword in our industry. There's a lot of them. But I think in this case, it's about having a customer at the center of your marketing plan, not customer-centric branding, which is what I would say is more the old way, but it's really understanding the context of how the customer experience is going to be to that person. The Bobs of today, the newer generation, no offense, the digital natives assume that their experience is going to be personalized. That's a real challenge for us. They believe that it should be personalized. Data can make it so, and if we can do that, it's going to make it a heck of a lot more compelling. Those brands that can make those messages, right time, right place, feel personalized, are going to stand out from the noise. Well, we have to get the data to do it right.
And back to our winking analogy, so you've got to wink at somebody from a lot of different directions before you can really get their attention and get them to act.
And multiple times. And, when you're the average person receives 15,000 messages a day. I mean, it's imagine insane. That. So there's a phenomenon now. It's probably every generation says this, but decision fatigue. And the reality is now the additional hard part isn't just telling you what's new and different and why you should care. There's a new component of, why do you need this now? Because A, you're tired, you don't make the decision, and you probably believe that the next great technology is probably a month away.
Yeah.
So I'll just wait it out.
It will be free or faster,
Right.
easier, cheaper, and better.
So there's a whole different benefit equation we have to take into account. And again, it's acting on many different planes now. Omnichannel allows for that context. It allows for all those data points to come in to form a holistic view of a singular experience.
Right.
It allows us to deliver that. So not all companies are there. That's what's going to happen.
Right.
You talked about digital native. How does that impact? Because we do a lot of work with marketing firms and in different spaces, and the digital native is who's driving these companies. So I imagine you have a few of those within your firm.
Yep.
How is that impacting what you have to do as a leader for a company, or is it?
It absolutely is. And dare I say the word millennial, which a lot of us as entrepreneurs talk about. There's a lot of things that the generations that are not millennial kind of gripe about. This is very different. And I'm sure people looked at my generation the same way, you know. So it's just different. They have different set of expectations. And I'll give you a good example.
Yeah, great.
I learned early on that calling someone to a digital native is perceived to be selfish and intrusive.
You mean on the phone?
On the phone.
Wow.
In fact, they would say, really? This is that important? Where this is worth a call to me where I'm going to stop what I'm doing and pick it up? Why couldn't you text? Wow. Why couldn't you email? Whereas I grew up saying, why would you resort to something as impersonal as email? Calling says you care.
Right.
So it's dynamics like that you just have to watch, and I think we need to listen to our people. And the other thing that's changed quite a bit is this isn't a command and conquer organizational world anymore. And that means top down, right? The weight is on the peeps,
Sure.
and they will do as they're told because that's your job, and you knew that work wasn't supposed to be fun, and you work towards retirement. These are people that are never going to retire, and they want to be heard. So we have to change our leadership style to understand it's okay. Maybe I will text you. Maybe IM isn't the end of the world.
You know, it's funny you say that because I was actually trying to reach somebody yesterday, and I could not find a phone number on his website anywhere. So I'm Googling the guy, trying to find him. I finally find his blog, and on his blog, under the contact me, it says, text me, and he gave his mobile number, text me or email me. Don't even think about calling me. I don't ever even check my voicemail.
Is your client Tim Ferriss?
No,
Okay.
but that's a good idea.
We get an autoresponder from
All right,
India.
we need to move on. So let's take another little tack. This is sort of what we call the experience impact. And so in the hook, I talked about, you know, having a great company and can you have balance in life and still run a successful company. And so I guess my first question to you is, what is the biggest breakdown that has turned into a breakthrough for you?
I often tell people that the hardest part about business is something I didn't anticipate being the hard part, because that's the first question I usually get. What's been the hardest part? I went into this thinking that getting business, hanging a shingle, finding the business would be the hardest part. And it really hasn't been. It's been the people. And I'm including myself in that P word. Mm-hmm. What I wish I had understood better was managing myself was going to be a big key to success. And I've learned that kind of the hard way. I was a classic workaholic through my whole career, through schooling, through everything. I knew I could outwork the competition. I didn't trust that I could be smart about it. I was convinced that I would only be as successful as my dependence on work would let me. And that was very limiting looking back, realizing the breakdown was the fact that the weight of this complicated thing, I felt I took it on for my shoulders and I could tell my own limitations. And I didn't know if I had the ability to push through on my own, and those being the key words, on my own, where I didn't have to. That was a false view of the world for me, that it took a breakdown of a real moment of cry for help to say, I can't do this alone, and I won't. I'd rather fail than do so. And that was really enlightening to me, to have that moment of, I don't want to say give up, but just give in. Like, I was just like, I can't do it the way I was doing it. And so that was probably about 3 or 4 years into the business. We were growing leaps and bounds. I had nothing to point to on the P&L that said the way I was going about it was wrong, except the way I felt, the other parts of my life that weren't that weren't flourishing besides work, and my overall dependence is fear-driven motivation.
Fear of failure?
Fear of failure, fear of regret, fear of looking back saying I didn't do enough, fear of those common anxieties, I guess, except I took them kind of, I think, in my own head to an uncommon level. I read this article once about the kind of downside, the dark side of entrepreneurship. Unfortunately, I read it about 6 years too late. I could have really used that purvey into the mind of the entrepreneur, and they have this analogy in there, and it's the entrepreneur is on the back of a lion. And then from the outside world, all the people looking at this entrepreneur, we build them up. Like, wow, that guy's doing some amazing things. I can't believe he's on the back of a lion. Oh, my God. Yeah. And really, all the entrepreneur's thinking is, what the heck am I doing in the back of this lion, and how am I going to get off?
Without getting eaten.
Right. So I think I asked for help right away in a lot of common ways. That's how we met. Common ways like, do you have a good banker? How'd you deal with this? Very functional, how do you run a business stuff?
Sure.
And I think what I would urge a lot of entrepreneurs to do is realize this is really hard. It's emotionally difficult. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of natural fear. Those are the types of support from other entrepreneurs that I think if you find the right mentors, that they can help you sort that up. So I didn't have to feel alone. And that was something that just took a little while to claw back about, many, many years of programmed, this is what I need to do to get successful, to change the way I do that.
And that's so powerful. And I really, really appreciate and applaud you for sharing that, because that's part of why this show exists, is that I really believe working with so many brilliant, talented entrepreneurs that is going on, but a lot of times people don't even want to address it in a functional way, much less being transparent and sharing kind of the raw emotion of that.
Well, didn't you, Stephen, find an article talking about the suicide rate among entrepreneurs being really high?
And depression and everything, and anxiety, all that being way, way higher than the normal population or the rest of the population. And yeah, I mean, pretty crazy stuff. What's next for you?
I don't want to sound like I'm copping out here, because I'm not. We have some important things to do in 2016 related to really building up our business pipeline, ensuring that our positioning of focusing on this segment is what we need to be in the future, and also maintaining our high scores on our culture and all the things our employees tell us. So that's really important. The most important thing I want to do is focus on today, which is a real challenge for me. I'm tempted to always think about what's 5 years down the road.
Sure.
I'll be honest with you guys, the way I'm honest with myself, I don't think any of us really know what's happening in 5 years. And so I'm trying to win today. I'm trying to make the best bets I can, anticipating what the opportunities of the future might be.
Sure.
But that's the real challenge for me, is staying in the present and winning today. And I've learned that that's the most important thing. So that's what I'm kind of focusing on. And I think then 2016 and so forth will continue to take care of itself.
Well, I'm in. And Mike, I just want to thank you again for your time today. And thank you to our audience. If you'd like to get in touch with Mike, please visit ignitepartnership.com. To connect with Bob or myself, please visit nextlevelshow.com. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's all these great omni-channels to connect with us on. I probably used it wrong, but what the heck. You guys have a great week.
See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
You have been listening to The Next Level, Conversations That Propel Business with Stephen Nooner and Bob Gibbons. Join us every Tuesday at 1:30 p.m. for more prolific conversations that will take your business to the next level.